I always try to be very respectful of everybody's time because like I know how valuable my time is when I'm working, and I don't like when people burn my time, and time is our most valuable asset.
Welcome to Business Buying for Financial Independence. I'm Tim Delaney, and I help young professionals buy small businesses so they can escape the 9 to 5 and take control of their time, income, and future. If that sounds like you, hit the subscribe button and let's get into it. On today's episode, we have a special guest who is interested in buying a business and has been looking into it for a little while, but has not yet pulled the trigger on anything. He is a successful real estate investor and has a full-time W-2 job. So he's going to go by the name Paul for this episode so that his employer doesn't hear and find out his intentions of buying a business. But we are going to go through some of his story, and then if I can help him out in any way, shape, or form by answering some of his questions, we will do that. So first of all, welcome, Paul. Thanks for being here.
Well, thanks so much for having me, Tim. It's great to see you again and have a good chat.
Anytime. Yeah, Paul and I have, we connected probably a couple years ago now through Instagram and chatted here and there. We met up in real life when he was passing through my area. Maybe it was a year ago now, 6 months ago.
I think, it was about, yes, I think it was over almost a year because I was just moving to my new duty station.
Okay.
And it was my last trip out. And I was going to see my portfolio in Ohio.
Yep.
And I landed in Toronto, and then I came down through Windsor or through Buffalo there, and then down and met you.
Yep.
So
yeah, it was awesome. So it was it's nice for him to reach out as he was driving through and be flexible with his time, even though he had a long drive. But so let's maybe just get started by telling people a little bit about your background. Kind of, as I mentioned, you have a full-time W-2, and then you've been investing in real estate, and you're from Canada. As some people may have figured out from that flight into Toronto.
So I'm Canadian. I grew up in Manitoba on the prairies in Canada, the most just above North Dakota, and I joined federal law enforcement when I was 25, and I've been working in that field for the last 20 years. I recently did a posting where it was quite lucrative and we had some extra money, and my wife and I wanted to invest in real estate. And we looked and looked and looked in Canada, and just the numbers didn't pencil. There is no really true cash flow markets in Canada. So we looked to the United States, and we're like, okay, well, these deals make sense down here. Wonder is it possible for Canadians to invest in real estate? I reached out to some real estate agents, and they were like, no, you can't do it. So that just fueled me even further. Like when someone tells me like you can't do something, I'm like, okay, well then there's obviously a way I can do this, because clearly it has to be able to be done. And I did. I bought a duplex just outside of Akron, Ohio, and I still have it to this day. And then I hooked up with a partner, and we bought 3 properties in Toledo that were uninhabitable, and we fixed them up, and now we rent them out, and my real estate journey is chugging along. So it can be done.
Awesome. So you're a successful real estate investor. You have a good full-time job.
I do.
What drove your interest into acquiring a business?
So we started watching, so Cody Sanchez, we started watching her videos on YouTube about buying a business and how you can own multiple businesses. And I had never really thought, and she was talking about businesses as assets, similar to real estate, but obviously more involved in buying and owning and running and managing them day to day. So I was just like, well, that's a great idea. And I wonder if if we can apply what we did in the United States with our rentals to a business. So we took our course, finished the course, part of the community, and I have been working, trying to get a deal done in Northern California with a seller who had his business on the market, and then it went off the market. So I contacted him through social media, and I just said, "Hey, look, my name's Paul. Like, I saw your business for sale. Like, I'm interested in buying it, and you know, it and he was receptive, which I was kind of I thought he would. I don't think he would have taken me seriously, because because as a business seller, from my understanding, talking to a few, they get a lot of people that are kind of crazy, emailing them and texting them, and that's why they use brokers to kind of weed out the people. And I had originally talked to the broker that had represented that business, and he immediately kind of dismissed me and said, "You're a Canadian. We're not like, I don't want, like, I think this is a big waste of time." And I said, "Well, like, I said, okay, I hear you." Because with the business that I'd like to acquire, it's a private investigating business. It's a niche, and it's niche within the private investigating sector. So you need a license to hold it, and that would be a little bit difficult for a Canadian to hold an American private investigating license. Also, in California, they do have stricter regulations surrounding everything. So that would also pose a challenge. But after the business went off the market, I contacted the seller. I set up a date. My wife and I and my kiddos, we went down to Northern California. We met him. Uh, he wanted to sell. I wanted to buy, but my wife did not want to move to California. So I'm like, okay, well, that poses a problem. Uh, so what I did is he emailed me back saying, "Hey, I want to put the business back on the market. Do you know any good brokers?" And I referred him to one of the facilitators that was in our contrarian community, and he emailed back saying, "How much do I have to lower the price for you to buy it?" And I said, "It's really not too much about price for me. It's about terms. Like, if the business will support the price you want, like I would pay the price. Price is what you pay, value is what you get, is one of my mottos. So, like, if the business is worth it, then you pay it. Then you can pay it, right? So we're like, how can we do this to how can I do this? So what we're gonna do is, now we're hammering out the details now about um having him stay on and have a manager, and have another American partner to come into the deal with me. And we're getting close to, we're going to put in an LOI on the business. So hopefully within the next couple of weeks, we do an LOI and we get a deal done. So this situation will allow me to keep my W-2 job in Canada till retirement, and then from there I can then we can own a business in the United States. So
That's awesome.
yeah,
So
no, it's great. Like another I look at these challenges. I said, okay, well, this is a problem that needs to be solved. We can figure it out. There has to be a way that, like, I'm sure somewhere there's a Canadian that owns a business in the United States that like, I'm
definitely.
so we just have to figure this out.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like the perseverance on that. I
Yeah.
like the fact that you don't take no for an answer. Uh,
Yeah.
let's back up a second to,
Yeah.
when you discovered Cody on YouTube and watching her
Yeah.
videos,
Mhm.
you were already investing successfully in real estate when you started watching those, and you're in cash flowing markets, as you mentioned, so you're
Yeah.
generating some cash.
Mm.
What
Yeah.
is it about the business, buying a business, that appealed to you more so than the real estate?
So what appealed to me about having a business would be if I want to really put my foot on the gas and, do more sales or marketing or improve the business, like I can pull different levers and increase cash flow, decrease expenses, uh, market the business better. Like the things that I do can increase the value of the business. Where in real estate, you're very much rents are out of your control. Like you have no control of the rents. Um, and if your property appreciates or depreciates, that's a market thing that you really have no control over, other than forced appreciation and renovations. Uh, you really don't have a lot of control over how your asset performs. So a business is just it's an asset class that you can uh, have freedom to do with what you want to do, and my actions and the way I run the business will determine how the business performs, right? So,
Yeah, exactly. I love that because that's
yeah,
it's exactly why I appreciate business over real estate, even though I do both as well. The the control that you have over a business where it's all in your hands. And I say this on social media a lot of you can be the best employee, corporate employee that you can possibly be, and you could be making your company lots and lots of money, but that stability is never, you could be out of a job tomorrow with no rhyme or reason, and you also don't have direct control over your income in the long term. So,
no,
and you can't pass it on to your kids, and
nope,
nobody else can take it over if you can't function in it anymore. So
yeah,
there's just so many uh, pros of owning a business, and then as compared to real estate, with that, as you mentioned, especially single family, doubles,
yeah,
small multifamily. It's really market conditions that determine whether it goes up or down in value versus
yeah.
owning the business. That's cool. So,
Oh, it's awesome. I in my W-2, I sometimes get frustrated. It's like, okay, well, I take a lot of, like in law enforcement, we take a lot of personal risk. We, deal with a lot on like situations that we don't like that are other people don't ever have to deal with. And as like a law enforcement officer, like it really depends. Like you could be the hardest working guy, but you're not getting paid any more than the guy that doesn't do anything, right? So, in a business, my work determines my income, right? So I can excel, and it's worth it for me.
yeah. Yeah, you take everything into your own hands and you
Yeah,
sink or swim based on what you do, which is fantastic. So you started getting interested in
yeah.
business. You joined, or you took a class, and you joined a community and started looking uh, kind of in depth. Did you know from the start of your search that you were looking for private investigative type businesses?
So I was open pretty much to anything, but what they taught in the course is you want to take the skills that you have and
Hmm.
apply them to the business world. And me, like a private investigative route is very typical for a lot of in former law enforcement to go into. So it was a perfect fit. Um, it'd be good because in law enforcement, I could go right into the role and talk to other agencies and sell to them and say, hey, and because I speak the language, right? I have credibility. I can say, hey, like I've been a police officer for 20 years. Uh, this is why you should use us, and go from there, right?
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
whereas I looked at some other businesses like trades business like electrical. I really like the service business model. I I think it's great. I think there's a huge need for it. But it'd be a very big uphill battle for me to buy an electrical company and then manage it and run it with credibility, because I'm not an electrician, right? So like I could become one, but I'd be many years getting my certifications and uh licenses and stuff. Whereas this one, I can go right into it.
Yeah. I think that's a very important thing to consider. what skill sets you bring to the business. And I do think, as you said, I think for the most part, anybody can buy any type of business,
Yeah.
but it does always make me a little bit nervous when I hear of these people coming from completely white collar, professional type background and going out and buying an electrician company or a plumbing company. It can be difficult to win the respect and trust of your employees if you have no idea what you're doing in that field. Not to say
Well,
it can't be done, but
mm,
it can be tough.
well, it's
Uh,
tough, right? Because it's the employees. It's you're there. Like now, you own the business. Their livelihood depends on you, right?
yep.
So they're going to be like, okay, great. Like they've had what for maybe for 20 years, a former plumber has ran their company, and now uh, this guy from who that's worked as a like an accountant is going to buy their business. Like, and then you're right. It's not like it can't be done or it's impossible. Um, but with the smaller kind of sub 1 million in revenue type businesses, it'd be that don't have a management structure in place. I think it'd be tough for someone to come in that doesn't have a background in the trade to take that over.
Yeah. So once you identified this business, and I guess I just want to touch on that too with the
Yeah.
broker. One of the things that I talk about a lot is when you reach out to brokers or business owners, one of the first things you need to be doing is kind of selling yourself from
Yeah.
the get go of why you are the right person for this
Yeah.
role, because brokers and sellers get a lot of tire kickers,
Yeah.
and they need to kind of quickly establish who the serious players are or not. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, it sounds like the broker didn't take you seriously for this particular business
Yeah.
because of the licensing or whatever else it was. But the seller took you seriously. So it's good to build those real connections with people as well. I mean, obviously, so the seller then asked you for a recommendation for a broker
Yeah.
at one point, and which
Mhm.
shows that that seller had respect for you. You had
Yeah.
built a good relationship, which is all key. And then to the point where he came back to you again and said, just name your price because he didn't
Yeah.
want to deal with the brokers. It sounds like.
Well, I think selling a business, I imagine like just talking to the seller, it was not a very fun process. Like like he said, he would get on these calls with these people that clearly were did not have a clue about what was going on or what to do or what the
Yeah,
business is about. Uh,
yeah,
and he just it didn't draw confidence in them. And I think when you're buying a business, you have to remember that you're buying someone's baby, essentially, right? Like a lot of these guys have had these businesses for 30 years and they love them, right? They've managed them and taken care of them. They've fed their kids, like it's their whole life, right? That it's provided them a standard of living rarely seen in any other country, right? So, and then just they want to be very careful about who they hand this over to, and it it's an emotional exercise, right? It's not just numbers on a pen, like because to me, like when you look at a business, it's like okay, you have a formula, what makes money sense, but to them, it's emotional. They want like for the most part, sellers, especially the smaller businesses, want someone that's going to take care of their clients, their people, and do a good job with their business. It's like passing the torch to the next generation, right? So, uh, I think people got to keep that in mind when they approach sellers, and that it's not just all about money, right?
100%. That's for a lot of sellers, like you said, it's their baby. They want to be able to point to that business 10, 20, 30 years down the road and tell their grandkids that that's what they started, that's what they
Yeah.
did, that's what they built. And they want to make sure that it's still going to be around and still going to be reputable and still going to be a pillar in the community that they're in. So
Yeah, absolutely.
it's yeah. So when you are approaching brokers, sellers, do it with respect. Do it with an understanding or a way that shows them you understand their business and you're going to take care of it and their employees and their customers. So with so you've been going back and forth with the seller for some time now.
We have,
Have
yeah.
you have you continued searching for other businesses in the meantime, or are you dialed in on this?
I did. I looked at a couple other ones. There was one in the town that that I bought where I own like one in Toledo that I liked. It was a roofing business where the seller, it was like a distress situation. The seller had some health issues, and like I invest in real estate in that area in Toledo, so I knew that what the demand for roofing is and what we've paid for roofs, and I'm just like it was, and how the service wasn't really that great. I said if we could improve service, and um, but that would be one, like that would be one where we would have to relocate to Toledo and actually be there. So uh, it was a no go on that one. Um, um, and then I did look at a similar business in the same area and in Northern California, but it was on the digital forensic side, not doing other types of investigations. And it went off. I spoke to the broker, and it was a little bit out of the price range that we could handle at this point. So we I didn't contact the seller on that one, even though the broker was willing to set up a meeting. I don't want to burn his time if I don't think I can uh I don't think we can make it happen. So I always try to be very respectful of everybody's time. Uh because like I know how valuable my time is when I'm working.
Mm-hmm.
Uh and I don't like when people burn my time, and uh I try to, do the same with others, right? It's time is our most valuable asset, and you can't get it back when it's gone. And if you're going to be having a conversation, it should be with the best of intentions.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it's a good philosophy in general, but especially when dealing with sellers. It's easy to get excited about a business opportunity, especially
Yeah,
if it's in that niche that
yeah,
you're already targeting, and the broker's willing to connect you. But having that recognition that, you know what, this really is probably not going to work. So
yeah,
in the interest of everybody's time, let's not waste any.
yeah.
Uh, that said, there's times where if
Nice.
it's close enough, even if you think it's a little bit of a long shot, it still might be worth that conversation, because you
Yeah,
never know what kind of terms or financing or options are available from the seller. Again, if you make that good connection, and
yeah.
uh, there's
So
there's
so
always
what I might
options.
do, so I have the partner that I'm working with on this deal in California. He is local to the Seattle area. He works for a big tech company. He used to work in Canada, and he was a Canadian and then moved there for work. So he um he likes this other business as well. And the plan is, once if things go well with this one in Northern California, we can then approach the seller on that one with the same kind of deal, like, hey, with for 10% down, will you finance over so many years? And this is our background. We've already done something similar uh, in an area close to you. Here's the seller's name and number. Uh, talk to him, and like to know we're legit. Um, but also too, if I told myself and my partner agrees with me that once if we're fortunate that and a deal goes through, we're gonna contact the brokers on the other end of those deals and send them some money, just because, hey, like, originally you made the original connection and you should be compensated for your time. Even though you're not getting a commission on the sale of the business, but hey, here's like a couple $1,000. Thanks for making the connection. Um, and it's always good. I think people like tend to kind of be like, oh, I don't want to pay commission and fees and real estate and stuff. But at the end of the day, the brokers are the gatekeepers to good deals. And if you're treating them well, um, they're gonna think of you when something like a home run comes. You're gonna be top of mind, right? When a home run comes to them, right? So
Great piece of advice there. It's always frustrating paying the fees, seeing those on closing statements, whether it's a business or real estate. But the brokers, the realtors, they put in a lot of effort and
oh
work,
yeah,
not just on that one deal, but on hundreds of others that don't get to the finish line that they don't
Yeah.
get compensated for.
Yeah.
So, and like this one specifically for you, the broker, in theory, put in a bunch of work up front, did not get the business sold for whatever reason at the time. And, uh, but from your attitude is
So,
they should still be compensated for something, which is a great way to stay on their radar for future deals. I guarantee you, anytime that broker has another related business come up, you're
yeah.
going to be the first call going forward.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And um, I operate on this philosophy and it's worked very well for me. Like if you add value to other people and you do things for others, like, good things are going to happen to you. And you don't do it with the intention of, hey, if I do something good for you, you can do something good for me down the line. It's like, well, if you're just a decent person, you know, things will happen, good things will happen to you. While, not right away, but, year, 2 years down the road, right?
Yeah. That's something my father always taught me was give without expectation of return. Just,
Yeah.
do things for people uh, with no expectation. Because then when they do reciprocate, it's a pleasant surprise and you feel good. And if they don't, you're not upset. You're not holding a grudge. You're not, wondering when they're going to do something nice for you.
Yeah.
So just give without expectation of return. With your partner situation, how did you find your partner?
He was actually part of the contrarian community. He was part of
Okay.
Cody's group also.
Okay.
And I posted the deal on, so we use in the community, we use Slack, and you'd post your deal and people would critique it and uh, say, hey, what do they like about it? What do they don't like? And he messaged me and say, hey, like, look, this is me. I'm looking to like fund some stuff. I don't have the time to be totally involved in managing the business, but I'd like to invest and do some deals. And so now and we met a couple times, talked on over over the phone and on FaceTime, and we both are like-minded. Um, and we're not like our philosophy is we're going to use all the, like, if this works out, we're going to use all the earnings from the business to pay back the seller. And we're looking at like a 3-year timeline for payback. And then we'll still have our W-2s. And once that's going, and during that process, we'll improve sales and some processes and go from there. And hopefully we can build that business till it's earning some decent earnings, and on to the next one.
Yeah. With the partner situation, it's
Yeah.
always important to make sure you're aligned on a lot of levels, personal, philosophical. It sounds like you are, but then it's also important to have some pretty strong operating agreements in place. Are you guys, have you done that yet, or are you waiting until you get closer to closing?
So we were on a call yesterday with a law firm, in a boutique law firm in Florida that strictly deals in M&A with businesses, like purchasing small businesses, well, businesses of any size. So I am going to email that lawyer today and set up a call for us to hammer out an LOI, an operating agreement, and anything going further that he suggests that we do, because this is our first deal, so we don't really have all the information. And during that call, he brought up a bunch of different scenarios and talked about like stock sale versus asset sale and what the difference is, and so, which are all things that I had never thought about.
Mm.
So it's
Yeah.
super important to have a lawyer and a good operating agreement.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one of the first things that comes up. I've talked to a number of people that get into the buying process and get, to that LOI stage, and, or even getting into the contract stage and not knowing the difference between an asset sale and a stock sale. And
Yeah.
I've done a whole YouTube video on that. I'll link to it in the show notes for people that are interested, but just on a very brief, high level, a stock sale is you're buying the stock of the business. So you're maintaining the existing entity with all of the assets and liabilities that come with it. It is from a tax standpoint, it's usually more advantageous to the seller in that regard, but it it can have some advantages to the buyer as well, in terms of not having to transfer licenses and bank accounts and agreements, contracts with vendors and or customers. Uh, and then a asset sale is when you are just buying the assets of the business. So you form a new entity, you transfer all of those assets, the name, the equipment, whatever it is, into the new asset, into the new entity's name, which starts you fresh, cuts out any former liabilities, any possibility of somebody coming out of the woodwork and saying you owe me money, or I tripped and fell in your business 10 years ago and you owe me millions of dollars, or whatever the crazy case may be. So there's pros and cons to both. Make sure you dig deep into that before you get too far, and just get pushed into one without really knowing the difference.
Yeah. No, absolutely. The on our call yesterday, the attorney brought up a scenario where a client of his closed a deal for some medical devices, and then
Mm,
and they did a stock sale, and then it came out that they were being investigated for some kind of fraud, the previous owner, or there was then they were charged and they couldn't do business because of there was criminal charges regarding some bribery. It was like a whole mess, right?
yeah.
So he
Yeah.
said that's why asset sale is better for sellers. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Better for buyers,
Yeah,
the
buyers.
asset
Yeah,
sale.
sorry.
Yeah. Yep. No, I flip them around all the time as well. But yeah, it's definitely more advantageous for a seller usually, or for a buyer, to be in an asset sale situation. But there are times, and you might, as you do your due diligence in this business a little bit more, you might find that there are reasons for a stock sale, such as if you have government contracts.
Yeah.
Sometimes those government contracts will not transfer over to a new entity automatically, and the
Yeah.
government will require a rebidding process,
Yeah.
which now technically you're a new business, new entity with no track record,
Uh-huh.
uh, and that could hinder you depending on the contract, depending on the government agency. There's a lot of businesses that have big government contracts. You almost always have to do a stock sale because you don't want those contracts to disappear overnight.
Yeah.
But there's also, I know that there are ways to do hybrid scenarios and ways to protect yourself from past liabilities during the process, the sale process. So that's, to Paul's point, making sure that you have a good attorney that knows business acquisition on the one hand, and then sometimes it might even be a separate attorney to do the operating agreement between you and partners.
Yeah.
Um, I was with some friends last night, some fellow business owners, and we were joking about how many different lawyers we know at this stage in our lives. Because,
Yes.
especially for my one buddy that has trademark issues, he's got a lawyer for that. Got HR issues, he's got a lawyer for that. He's got liability issues, he's got a lawyer for that. He's got all these different attorneys that specialize in different things. It's kind of like a doctor, where you go to your general doctor for most things and for general health. But if you need heart surgery, you're not going to go to the
Yeah.
foot doctor. And
No.
if something's wrong with your elbow, you're not going to a lung doctor. So just, and that's what lawyers are as well.
Yeah.
There's specialists in each field.
Yeah, and and legality is one of those things that you don't really think about it until you need it. And then
Yep.
when you do, it's usually something's not going well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's always good to
Exactly.
know
That's
different.
yeah. And I've heard people refer to the operating agreement as an operating disagreement, because in reality, you make an operating agreement, and if the business is going well and everybody's happy, 99% of the time, nobody ever even looks at that operating agreement again. It
Yeah.
only gets pulled out when there are problems, and when partners have issues with each other, or the business isn't going well. That's when people scramble and start looking through that document to find issues. So
Yeah.
it's sitting down and going through all the what ifs with the partner. What if this happens? What if I pass away? What if I'm disabled? What if, I get
Yeah.
divorced? What if the
Yeah.
business doesn't do well? All
Right.
those kinds of things,
Yeah.
important to cover.
Yeah. What if, yeah, like what if you're like someone gets addicted to drugs, right? And then
Yep.
they,
Yeah.
right? Like what happens
Yeah.
then?
Yeah.
Because
Yep.
like that's just
Yep.
every like inconceivable situation you got to think of that, right?
Yeah.
So that's why it's
Yeah.
important to have an attorney that's dealt with these kind of things and knows, because the guy, I'll shout out his name is Eric Pacifici with SMB Law. He's
Okay.
very active on X, and
Okay.
he he says, yeah, every time we run into a new scenario, we put a new checklist on our due diligence sheet.
Yep.
So or so it like
Yeah.
when you use a specialty lawyer, you use you benefit from all that experience. So
Yep. Yeah, it's like a lease for an apartment as well. That,
yeah,
my leases have grown to pages and pages long because
yes,
something new comes up and it gets
yeah,
added in, and there's clauses in there from my attorney that I haven't had happen and hopefully never will, but things like a bat, there's bats, I'm not responsible for bats getting into the house.
yeah,
Because at one point, one of his clients had an issue between tenants and landlord over bats and whose responsibility it was. So,
yeah.
um, just weird things like that as they come up, they get added into contracts. Um, so that's awesome. You're going to be putting in the LOI soon. So
Yeah.
we'll hopefully one day get you back on, maybe you and your partner, or just you, and
Yeah.
discuss how that went from the LOI stage to running it. Is there anything that I can help you with right now? Is there any questions or any
You
issues
know
you're
what?
facing?
I would ask, like, what are some big red flags that when you're looking at a business that you are walking away from right away?
One of the big red flags for me is misalignment between the books, the profit and loss statements, and the balance sheets that the seller provides versus their tax returns. Uh,
Okay.
and it's not it's a tough thing depending on the size of the business, because sometimes with really small businesses, they don't have the greatest books and they're relying on their accountant to do stuff. So I will take that into consideration. And if it's an honest, and I have a good relationship with the seller at that point, and I can see it's just honestly, they just didn't do a good job keeping their books. Uh, I might be forgiving of it, but usually that's a red flag. Their bookkeeping says that they're making $200,000 a year bottom line, and their tax return says they're making negative $50,000. Something wrong there. I know, business owners always like to play games and not show a lot of profit for tax reasons, but
Yeah.
that's a big swing to be playing
Yeah.
games with. Um, and on that note too, it is another flag of mine is just consistent losses on their tax returns.
Yeah.
You know, I get it. You don't want to pay taxes. Nobody likes to pay taxes, but if you're going, in a sense, in essence, if you're going to be playing games like that and you're driving nice cars and living in nice houses and taking big vacations, clearly you're making money, and
Uh,
therefore you're hiding it. And in a sense, stealing from either yourself, the business,
yeah.
or the government, and you're being a little bit dishonest. And so
Yeah.
now, because of that dishonesty, I have to question everything you're saying about everything you're
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah.
Um, and not to say that all business owners don't play some games. Like
Yeah.
it's going to happen, but what extent and to a certain level starts to make me question. So those are a
Yeah.
couple. But also on the, and then on the operations side, looking at how much time or how many family members are involved in the business. Again, depending on the size, they might show payroll of a certain amount, but when you go into the business, you see way more people working than that payroll justifies. And it's because Uncle Fred and Aunt Sue and three of the kids and a cousin are all working for free or for product or for just family goodwill. And now you got to replace a lot more people than you thought you're going to have to replace.
Yeah.
Um, on the, you know, I guess those are some of the bigger ones. I'd probably think of more if I thought about it for a little bit longer, but definitely those discrepancies in the books are things that just make me cringe and wonder whether or not it's going to be a good deal.
It's it is tough because if someone's dishonest about one thing, right, the odds of them being dishonest about another thing are grow substantially, right? So
Yep.
it integrity is one of those things like you got it till it's gone, and then
Yeah.
it's hard to get it back.
Yeah. And you must see it all the time in law enforcement of you ask somebody a question, and if their first answer is not true, you're going to
Yeah,
start questioning everything that comes out of their mouth after that.
yeah. Oh, of course. We always it's a tough one in my profession. You have to kind of, because most of the people we deal with are always lying to us in one way or another. So we have to tell ourselves constantly, that's only a small part of the population. Not everybody's like that.
Yep.
But I do bring the, when I look at deals, I do put my hat on a little bit, and I dig through and try to find some discrepancies and look at stuff. So
Yeah. And then it's how they respond to those discrepancies too. If they're, you can tell from their reactions and the way they state it and how quickly they answer, whether or not they're intentionally trying to be deceitful or whether it is just, you know what, I don't do a good job of QuickBooks, or if maybe I don't even have QuickBooks, and it's, screwed up those things. And that's just me. I focus on fixing the plumbing and not the books, which.
yeah, that's what, on our call yesterday, that's what Eric was saying, the M&A lawyer. He said that 90% of deals they do with small businesses, their books are just a mess.
Yeah.
That's the reality of small business, and business owners are doing what they do best, which is operating their business, not doing books, right? So
Yeah, exactly. Anything else that I can help you out with on this deal or in buying
you
businesses
know
in
what?
general?
In this business that I'm looking at taking over, growing, like, how fast is too fast to grow?
I think that's dependent on the potential employment market where you are and what you need to fulfill growth. So I think there's businesses that can grow exponentially without adding an exponential number of people to them. And then there's businesses that rely on hiring and adding people to them. And I'm guessing yours kind of falls into the latter to some extent. Uh, and so how fast is too fast really comes down to how fast you think you can add people onto the team. How many employees are there right now?
There's a total of 15 employees. Two of them are W-2 employees. The rest are 1099 contractors.
Yeah.
And the W-2 employees are part-time admin people.
Okay. So the contractors are the ones that are really doing the heavy lifting.
The investigative work. Yeah.
They're generating the revenue. So I guess it would be a matter of taking a look at the market, taking a look at how long those 13 people have been doing this and been working for this company, and seeing what it would take to add more people on there. Like, how much training do you need to do versus how easy is it for them to just jump into the role? I'm assuming that a lot of them are former law enforcement or attorneys or something of that nature. So are they readily trained? Are they just a matter of them filing the retirement paperwork with their employer and setting up shop? Do you need to teach people how to be a 1099 employee? I think that's, I know a general contractor who works with people that come in for a job, and he will teach them how to be a 1099, how to, how to set up their own LLC so that they can be their own boss and have their own write-offs and do all that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah.
um, if you can create a pipeline like that where you're using your knowledge, your business knowledge, or connecting them with people. So it's really, for a business that's been around for a long time, if you try to hit the gas pedal too fast, you might break more stuff than you realize, which,
Yeah.
you know, so can your W-2 employees handle, talking
Yeah.
to them, seeing what they're doing? And not that you need to be constrained by them either. Sometimes people get complacent if they've been handling a certain caseload for a certain number of years,
Uh-huh.
even though they could do more, and you're watching them, go to the water cooler 20 times a day in the
Yeah.
office. You're going to be frustrated and say you could handle more, but they might not want to. So
Yeah.
being prepared to also replace or add on to them if growth becomes a burden to them,
Yeah.
even if you believe they can handle it. So I don't know if I'm giving you, obviously it's not a crystal clear answer of,
Yeah.
I think you can grow at 15% a year and be whatever. I think every business is going to depend a little bit. I think the fact that you're 1099s, I think does give you some room to accelerate pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I don't see a reason why you couldn't be going 15, 20, 25% a year if you really, really wanted it.
Yeah.
Um, and we're willing to deal with the headaches and challenges as they arise. But, to double it in the first, and it might be a matter of you might not grow at all in the first year,
Yeah.
but then in the second and third year, you really slam it on and double
Yeah.
and triple and things like that. Wrap your head around everything, every detail, come up with the strategy and the plan for onboarding and growing as you need to.
Yeah. One thing I really like about the business that we're looking at here, there's no brick and mortar. Everybody is working remote, and it relies on a technology platform where the cases come in, they're investigated, and as the go through the process of being investigated, there's an update on this platform, and then it goes out. The finished product is sent out, is reviewed, and then sent out to the client. So it's really smooth that way. I like that, and um, the limit is just like bringing on new clients, new customers, and then making sure that their investigations are handled in a timely manner.
Cool.
Um, which I think there's a lot of room to grow. Plus, just none of the headaches of having like a leased office or everybody showing up to work. Like it's all done through this platform, which is great. Mhm.
Which makes it nice because you can
Yeah.
expand geographically as well,
Yeah.
in theory, pretty quickly, as well, without having a confines of an office,
Well,
fixed location. So if it's something you can expand to the rest of the state to start with, and then to neighboring states, or other states that have less strict licensing
yeah.
requirements,
Yeah.
that, maybe it doesn't even matter that you're Canadian to get your license, in
There.
some states, or
Yeah.
maybe some states don't even have a license
Yeah.
because they're different than California.
Yeah.
Uh, so
Yeah.
that's something that you could be looking into now already, is figuring out those target markets where you can expand into quickly and easily.
Yeah.
Uh,
So I
yeah.
talked to the seller about that at length, and he said he has done some work for people in other states because word kind of got out that, hey, like there's a guy that does this. So
Mhm.
other states have contacted him and he has done it. Um, but he says that a lot of opportunity for growth within California because it's such
Mhm.
a massive state, like such a massive state, so many people, so much demand. Um,
Yeah.
and then it is quite like the organizations that we service have a lot of are the demand for the service is high because their budgets for are high as well, right? So it's a win-win. And I did some checking, and all the states in Western United States, like the neighboring states, like New Mexico, Utah, Nevada, Oregon, Washington, Idaho, they all allow for this type of investigation to be done. So immediate, like I wouldn't want to expand immediately to the rest of the West, but
Mhm.
it there is a possibility to do it, um,
Mhm.
which is nice, and that's what the long term plan would be. I think for the first year though, it would be just kind of to keep the wheels on and see what's happening and get a good feel and understand what's going on in the business,
Yeah.
and make sure that at most our seller gets the retirement that he deserves, and he's paid
Mhm.
for his paid out, and he expressed a willingness to come back as a commissioned salesperson, which would be excellent. Uh,
Yeah.
because nobody knows more about the business than him, and he's been doing it successfully for 17 years, right? So uh, it's
Yeah.
it'd be a win-win, I think.
Yeah. It's important. It's a good thing to keep in mind during the negotiation process as well of, a lot of times sellers are willing to stay on for a certain period for free to help out. And then what does their employment look like if they want, or if you want in the future? And not all businesses you want the seller hanging around and being a part of the day to day. But in this type of business with mostly 1099 contractors, and it sounds like he would just be a commission sales person, so it's not like he's running anything. It would be an ideal scenario for you. The uh, the other important thing to do to consider on the growth front, you touched on the customer service aspect, is making sure that all those 1099s are sticking with you.
Yeah.
I would imagine that it's, at some point, some of them, if they're already basically running their own kind of operations, might start thinking of setting up their own shop or doing, competitive business. So making sure they're all on board, creating a strategy for regular touch points with them that you know that they're happy and they're willing to jump on cases as they come in so that
Yeah.
your customers can be happy.
Yeah. Yeah. One, like in due diligence, I'm definitely gonna want to talk to uh some of the guys working there, and especially the ones that have been there the longest and that do the most work, and just see, hey, like I would ask for their 2 cents, their opinion. Hey, like where do you think this can go, and what do you see are the big problems, like roadblocks, and what's going well, what's not working, like what would you do if you were me, kind of thing, right? It
Yeah.
it's it's the same. It'd be the same to me as when I take over a new position as a leader at my job. Like, hey, like I'm the boss here, but you guys are doing the work, and nobody knows this place more than you. What what's going well, what's not going well, like if you were me, what would you change right away, so we can have some early wins, and then just I would make it known to them, hey, look, like I'm committed to the success of this place. I've sunk a lot of money in. Uh, I want success for you guys, which means success for me. So I'd like to initiate some kind of commission sales for them too. So if you bring us work, you get a piece of that, right? Like you sell for me, that means work for you, and you get a chunk that
Yeah.
like a thank you for bringing that business to us.
Yeah. That's highly motivating to
Right.
most people,
Right.
not to everybody, but
Yeah.
and that's something that you can discover in each of the individuals by getting to know them. I was just talking to a guy that bought a company recently, and one of the things that he's been finding is employees are coming to him with ideas that they had been bringing to the previous seller for years that were just shot down because that's not the way the seller did things. And some of them are starting to pan out already pretty quickly because nobody knows the business better than the employees in
Yeah.
it. And
Absolutely.
they're doing certain things a certain way for a while, and they come up with better ways to do it sometimes than even the owners can
Yeah.
think of.
And and also too, like a lot of these guys like are selling, that I've talked to, they're in their 70s. They are like they're tired and done, and they just want to kind of retire, right? And a lot of that would seep into their day to day, right? So they're probably not super motivated. They're making good money, not doing a heck of a lot, but they're kind of stuck, right? And they want to retire, but they can't. So I think like fresh blood is always good. And just to make, and if you can sell, hey, look, like I want to take this business so that you can retire and you can have the retirement you deserve. And if you want to step back and do some work for me, great. And if not, you know, well, like you can do what you want to do. Right. So,
Yeah,
and I think that's
exactly.
so many businesses in the United States right now. Like they're just, so many guys are like, they call it the silver tsunami. Right. And they're ready to retire, but just don't really have a proper plan in place. And I think that provides a lot of opportunity for people that are willing to take that risk.
Yeah, I don't know the statistics off the top of my head, but the number of businesses that are owned by baby boomers or older is extremely high. And then the number of those that have no succession plan whatsoever, no exit plan, is also extremely high. And to your point, when I bought my wine and liquor store, the previous owners had it for 20 years. They were making a very good living off of it with very little effort. And they weren't really trying to change anything. They didn't need to. They were making money and they were content. And that's what I think happens to a lot of businesses that are worth buying, is because they've been running pretty good for a while. They're not, rocket fuel growth, because the sellers are comfortable with their lifestyle and they make enough. But fresh blood, fresh ideas can really put some gas into it and push the accelerator down a little bit more.
And then if I, like in this situation, if I doubled a little bit the earnings, that's enough money to live on for the rest of my life. Right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and like I could stop there, or I could do another one and do it all over again. Right. So
Yeah.
lot of opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's what you just kind of said there has the potential to turn you into one of those sellers in a handful of years. Is,
Yeah.
you double the earnings and you're content. You can live off of that. Yes, you might be ambitious and you might go acquire another one or two, or you might still, try to accelerate growth in the existing one, but you might not need to, and you might find other things that excite you in life. And as long as you're getting paid, it doesn't matter as much on that front anymore. And then it becomes an attractive opportunity for a new buyer.
Yeah.
Uh, but
Absolutely. And then the cycle will continue.
yeah, exactly. And that's the idea. That's what I love about business, is because they can be, they're building equity, they're generating a lot of cash flow, and they're either something you can hand off to your kids or somebody, or to your employees, or
Yeah.
sell it to somebody else, and
Yeah.
then let somebody else achieve their dream. So
Yeah.
uh, very cool. Anything else you want to talk about, Paul, before we get out of here?
No, just thanks for having me on. It's really nice to see you again. And let's do this again, and that we can talk real estate or business
Yeah.
or
Well,
whatever's on the mind.
yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time to come on. Like I said, I met Paul a couple years ago through the internet, and in person last year. It's stayed in touch, although I should follow up more frequently. I look forward to hearing about the process as you
Yeah.
get closer to closing, hopefully, and then we'll get you back on, maybe a few months after you close on it, so we can hear the rest of the transaction process and your growth plan.
Yep.
Really appreciate you being here, Paul. For all of you out there listening, I'd really appreciate it if you took a second to hit the subscribe or follow button on your podcast app. That helps more people find us, so that everybody can hear awesome stories like Paul's. I will see you all again next week. Cheers. Thanks for listening to Business Buying for Financial Independence. If you're serious about owning your time and building long-term wealth, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode.